Imagine a young prince who, upon ascending the throne of a small kingdom, builds the largest empire the world had ever seen in just a few years. A man who fought over 20 battles and never lost a single one. A general who brought the Persian Empire to its knees and ventured as far as the borders of India. This prince is none other than Alexander the Great, one of history's greatest conquerors. In this video, we'll dive into the most thrilling moments of Alexander's life, his conquests, and the immense legacy he left behind. Join us as we explore the fascinating story of Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, or Alexander III of Macedon, was born in 356 BC in Pella, the capital of Macedonia. His father, King Philip II of Macedon, was a formidable leader who built a strong and efficient army, greatly influencing Alexander's military education. His mother, Olympias, a princess of Epirus, was a deeply religious and ambitious woman who often told her son stories of heroism and divine destiny. From a young age, Alexander demonstrated exceptional talent. His tutor, Aristotle, one of the greatest philosophers of the time, taught him logic, ethics, politics, and the basics of warfare. Greek mythology heroes like Heracles and Achilles had a profound impact on him, and throughout his life, Alexander measured himself against these legendary figures. Alexander was particularly gifted in horseback riding and weapon handling. One of the most famous stories about young Alexander is how he tamed Bucephalus, a wild horse that no one else could control. This act not only impressed his father, Philip, but also showed his soldiers that their leader possessed extraordinary abilities. As Alexander grew older, his father increasingly involved him in political and military matters. He participated in the Battle of Chaeronea, where the Macedonians achieved a decisive victory over the Greek city-states. In this battle, Alexander commanded the elite cavalry, playing a crucial role in the victory, which significantly strengthened Macedonia's dominance. When Alexander took the throne at the age of 20 after his father's assassination, the young king immediately showcased his leadership skills. First, he solidified his power in Greece by quelling rebellious city-states and re-establishing Macedonian hegemony. One of his most important campaigns was the suppression of the Theban rebellion, where the Macedonian army completely destroyed the city, setting an example for anyone who dared to oppose him. In 334 BC, Alexander began his famous campaign in the east. His first major battle was at the Granicus River, where he achieved a decisive victory over the Persian satraps. During the Battle of the Granicus, Alexander personally engaged in combat and narrowly escaped death when a Persian soldier nearly killed him. His loyal bodyguard, Clytus, saved his life at the last moment, reinforcing the loyalty of his troops. Afterward, Alexander conquered territories in Asia Minor, moving from city to city. One of his most significant achievements was at Gordium, where he cut the famous knot, symbolizing his destiny to rule Asia. This act not only impressed the locals, but also inspired his own soldiers, demonstrating that their leader could overcome any obstacle. In Asia Minor, Alexander's strategy relied not only on military might, but also on diplomacy. He conquered several cities peacefully, preserving their cultural and religious traditions, which greatly contributed to the acceptance of his rule by the local populations. In 333 BC, at the Battle of Issus, Alexander once again faced the Persian armies, this time led personally by King Darius III. The Macedonians emerged victorious again, forcing Darius to flee, leaving behind his family and treasures. The Battle of Issus was crucial, as it showed that Alexander was not just a capable general, but one of the greatest strategists of his time. During the battle, Alexander's tactical genius was evident. One of his most famous maneuvers was when he broke through the Persian lines to directly target Darius, causing panic in the Persian army. Darius's flight threw his forces into complete disarray, leading to a decisive Macedonian victory. After Issus, Alexander turned south and conquered the Phoenician cities, including Tyre, which he took after a lengthy siege. The siege of Tyre was particularly memorable because the city was highly fortified and located on an island. Alexander, however, built a causeway to reach the city's walls, eventually capturing Tyre. His perseverance and ingenuity during the siege left a lasting impression on his contemporaries and posterity. He then headed for Egypt, where the local population welcomed him as a liberator. In Egypt, he founded the city of Alexandria, which later became one of the most important cultural centers of the ancient world. The Egyptian priests hailed him as a god, initiating him into the secrets of the god Amun, further enhancing the legends of his divine origins. During his stay in Egypt, Alexander not only proved himself as a military leader, but also as a cultural and political figure. His respect for local customs and religions helped maintain stability and peace in his vast empire. In 331 BC, the Battle of Gaugamela took place, where Alexander decisively defeated Darius's vast army. This was one of the greatest victories of the Macedonian army, resulting in Alexander becoming the ruler of the Persian Empire. Darius attempted to flee but was betrayed and killed by his own men. The Battle of Gaugamela is considered one of Alexander's greatest military achievements, not only for the scale of the victory, but for the strategic brilliance displayed. Despite being outnumbered, Alexander's masterful maneuvers and excellent coordination of his units secured the win. One of his most dramatic tactics was opening a narrow gap in the enemy lines and breaking through directly towards the Persian leader, creating chaos within the Persian ranks. Alexander marched into Babylon, Susa, and finally Persepolis, the Persian capital. In Persepolis, during a legendary feast, Alexander set fire to the royal palace, a symbolic act marking the end of Persian rule. The burning of the palace was deeply symbolic, signaling the definitive end of Persian power and the rise of Macedonian dominance. The capture of Babylon was particularly significant because it was a major cultural and economic center of the East. In Babylon, Alexander demonstrated his ability to be not just a conqueror, but a ruler, by preserving the local administration and respecting Babylonian religious traditions. This move greatly contributed to the acceptance of his rule by the Babylonians. After defeating the Persian Empire, Alexander continued his conquests eastward. He conquered Bactria and Sogdia, where he married Roxana, a local princess, for both political and personal reasons. His marriage to Roxana not only secured alliances with local aristocracies, but also symbolized the cultural integration of Macedonian and local customs, which was crucial for the stability of his empire. In 327 BC, Alexander crossed the Hindu Kush mountains and began his Indian campaign. In 326 BC, at the famous Battle of the Hydaspes River, he defeated King Porus, who offered brave resistance. Impressed by Porus's valor and leadership, Alexander allowed him to remain on his throne and forged a friendship with him. And the Battle of the Hydaspes is particularly memorable for the dramatic clash involving war elephants and vast infantry forces. During the battle, Alexander once again demonstrated his strategic genius by crossing the river and surprising the Indian army. At the end of the battle, Porus, despite being defeated, stood with dignity before Alexander and requested to be treated as a king, which Alexander honored. In India, however, Alexander's army grew exhausted and discontented. The soldiers longed to return home, and Alexander was forced to turn back. On the return journey, Alexander's forces crossed the harsh Makran Desert, which claimed many lives due to its brutal conditions. Throughout his Indian campaign, Alexander showed his adaptability and strategic acumen. His diplomatic relationships with Indian kings and respect for local traditions ensured that his conquests were not only military successes but also laid the groundwork for long-term stability and integration. Alexander died in 323 BC in Babylon at the age of 32. The cause of his death remains a subject of debate, with some suggesting fever and others poisoning. After his death, his empire quickly fragmented as he left no strong heir, and his generals, the Diadochi, fought over his territories. Although Alexander's empire was short-lived, his impact on history is immeasurable. His conquests spread Greek culture and arts, laying the foundation for the Hellenistic period, which shaped the Eastern Mediterranean world for centuries. Alexander's legacy is not just that of a military genius, but also as a cultural bridge between East and West. After Alexander's death, his generals divided his empire and established their own kingdoms, leading to a series of conflicts and civil wars that eventually resulted in the formation of the Hellenistic kingdoms. These kingdoms, such as the Ptolemaic Egypt and the Seleucid Empire, carried on Alexander's legacy. Alexander's life and conquests also had a profound influence on art, science, and philosophy. The cities he founded, especially Alexandria, became centers of culture and learning. The Library of Alexandria and its scholarly community became one of the most important intellectual hubs of the ancient world, where Greek, Egyptian, Persian, and Indian knowledge intersected and flourished. The legend of Alexander inspired military leaders, rulers, and artists for centuries. His stories and myths have been depicted in numerous literary works and historical chronicles. Studying Alexander's life and achievements is not only fascinating from a historical perspective, but also serves as an example of human ambition and the limits of what can be achieved. The story of Alexander the Great is not just a chronicle of a conqueror's campaigns, but a tale of a man who, with boundless ambition, courage, and strategy, changed the world. His life and legacy continue to inspire those who seek to achieve greatness. Through his battles and conquests, Alexander the Great forever etched his name in the annals of history, and his story will always captivate humanity.